Hi guys, please excuse me for the sound that is on the background. But today I would love us to look at what is a semaphore. What is a semaphore? A semaphore is basically a type in .NET that provides us with the capability or the ability to be able to limit the number of threads that can actually use a certain resource. Some of the resources in our computers are very limited resource, like the network resources. You cannot be able to make more than a certain number of HTTP requests. For example, you can not, so depending on the maybe the network where your application will be running. So to some network, you may not be able to make like more than 20 HTTP requests at the same time. So when your application is executing, it may be required to ensure that it actually limits the number of threads that access a certain resource, because some resources are very limited. So the semaphore does provide us with the capability or the ability to be able, like in a very simple and straightforward manner, the semaphore is able to provide us with that capability without the complex of having the monitors and all threads and all sort of that. The semaphore provides us with that kind of platform. So in this video we are going to look at how to use the semaphore and where you can use it. Does that make sense? So we're going to make the most basic example of this, just to ensure that we remain as simple as possible, because simplicity is the best. Cool. So the first thing that we are going to do is to create a folder that is called Semaphore Slim. That's where our project is going to exist. Our project is going to exist inside a folder called Semaphore Slim. I've already created that folder. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go to File on my Visual Studio Code, go to File and go to Open Folder, and that folder is on my C drive inside Course Tutorials folder. So Semaphore Slim is there. It's actually an empty folder, but we're going to select it to be the one that is on our workspace. There we have Semaphore Slim. There's nothing inside Semaphore Slim. This is where we're going to create our project, the actual project that is going to contain the code to do whatever we want to do. So what's the next thing? The next thing is to open a terminal. This is where, because I want us to use the CLI tool. Does that make sense? I want us to use the CLI tool. Please forgive me for the background. We're staying where we're rented, so we have different people. They are paying the rent as well, so you can't tell them. So mind or excuse me for that. So what was I saying? Okay, I want us to create a project inside Semaphore Slim. We're going to create a project inside Semaphore Slim, and the kind of project that we're going to create, it's a console application, and we're going to use the program name. We're going to use the old style, just to make sure that our things are very as simple as possible, because what we really want to show you here is how to use the Semaphore Slim, and how to limit the number of threads that can access the critical section, or that can enter the critical section. Critical section is that part of the code where you actually limit how many parts of your code can be able to actually enter, or can be able to execute that part of the code. We're going to see that just in a moment. So there, now we're going to create the console application. I didn't specify the name of the project. Let's see what this is going to do. Okay, it's giving us we have created successfully created a console application. We should get a notification here. There are no what tools to be able to debug this thing. Let's wait and see. Let's wait. Okay, we'll do that later when it comes. I'll just clear this. So now we do have the program. This is the main, and I'm expecting you to know this is our project file, and this is our runtime project files. Yeah, this is what I was required access to build and debug missing from Semaphore Slim. So we say add them. Now our project have been successfully created. So we will come here. Inside the program type, we are going to have a private static method that returns nothing, which we are going to call, let's say, print document. So print document, as its argument, it's gonna take the document number to print, and then it's gonna do the job. So here we don't want to complicate things, and all we're going to want to show you is to how to limit the number of resources to how to limit the number of threads to access a certain resource. Cool. Now print document is going to print the document. That's all. It just print the document with the document number that you give. So we're going to have a type called printer. It's called print. Then we say obj print, and then we will create a type of print. We do not have this type yet, so what we are going to do is to create this type. Do we need to create it in the new file? Do we need to generate this class? Yeah, we will generate it within this file, so that we don't have to create a new file. So I will also change this access specifier to public, and then inside print, it's where we're going to contain the code, or it's where we're going to perform the task that we would want to limit the number of threads to actually enter this part of the code. Okay, like for example printing the document. So we're going to limit the number of threads that can print document at a time. For example, if we say, okay, there can only be 3 tasks or 3 threads that can be able to print a document at a time, then we can do that. Does that make sense? So let's see. So now we have a print. We have created this object. Now the first thing that we should have done is to create the semaphore type, and I'm going to create this semaphore type that is going to hold the reference to the Semaphore Slim type, and it should be static because it's going to be accessed by the static methods. We don't want to be creating objects of program in order to be able to access this type. After all, here all we want to do is to show you how to write a code that limits a certain number of threads, or that limits the number of threads that can actually access a certain resource within our computer. So we're going to declare a static method that of type Semaphore Slim. So here we're speaking about Semaphore, but we now declare a type of Semaphore Slim. Semaphore Slim is basically a semaphore, but it's a lighter version of the type Semaphore. Semaphore, it's the Semaphore Slim. It's basically similar to a type called Semaphore, except that Semaphore Slim is a bit light, and you would love to use it over Semaphore. So here, this is our Semaphore, and we'll call it Semaphore Slim. So now the first thing that we are going to do inside print document, it's basically to actually have a reference, to have a reference, or to create a reference to an object of Semaphore Slim. For example, we have Semaphore Slim. Now we say new Semaphore Slim. So Semaphore Slim has two what do we call it? Has two overloads of the constructor have, or Semaphore Slim contains a construct. The constructor of Semaphore Slim has two overloads. One, the other one takes the initial count, what is called the initial count. Let's see. I want us to look at the initial count. The second one takes the initial count plus the maximum count is used. Semaphore. Wait a minute. Oh, scrap. We named the same as one of the types, so we'll have to change this one. I'll just change it to something like this. You see now it has changed. So the problem here was that the namespace of our application is the same as the type Semaphore Slim, which is basically a type within ASP.NET Core. So now it's confused when I was trying to create a type of Semaphore Slim, that okay, which one are you specifying now? Are you specifying this namespace of yours, or are you specifying the type of? So now I've changed that. I've changed my namespace. That's okay. So now I create an object of Semaphore Slim, and I said it comes with two overloads. The first overload, you just specify the initial count. The second overload, you specify the initial count but plus the maximum count. It's where you say, okay, in the beginning I want only one thread to be in the critical section, and the maximum number of threads that can be in that critical section is also one. What we are basically saying here is that there can only be one thread that can enter into the critical section of this application. Cool. So now we say Semaphore Slim dot wait. What we are saying is that now you're gonna wait here until there is nothing in the critical section, as this Semaphore Slim only allows one thread to enter into the critical section. The critical section is a code that is between Semaphore Slim.wait and Semaphore Slim.release. Semaphore Slim.release. So all the code that you are going to write between these two calls, it's what we call a critical section, because the Semaphore Slim type is not going to allow any other thread to enter into that part of the code, as long as there is any other thread that is still in that critical section. For example, here we have obj print dot print. This is actually the type that prints, and then we can print let's say okay, the first thing that I should have done is to create many threads, is to have many threads. And let's see, we're just going to create an array of threads of tasks here, which is our multiple threads that are going to make to have to print a document. So here we're going to have about 20 of these tasks. That's what we want. There are 20 tasks that are going to have to print a document at a time, but it won't happen at the same time because we're going to use Semaphore to actually limit that. So now we say we're gonna have a for loop. So in that for loop, we can say, let's say tasks should be tasks here. Let's use plurality dot length. Okay, so now we're going to assign tasks I dot, okay, then we say task we create dot factory dot start new. Then we say, so this is where we're going to do the printing. This is where we're going to do the printing. This is where we're gonna do printing. So every time we start a new task, then we say Semaphore to slim. So we're going to have this method that is the one that is going to do the actual printing. We're not gonna implement anything here, and here all I'm going to do is to print and say to the right line, I'll say printing document here, printing document here. Now let me do this. Fuck. Public void. Remember, I cannot be the same as the enclosing type. Print document. Let's see. Yeah, this is the method that should say print document. Cool. Print document should take as its parameter the document number. Should take the document number. So here, guys, we are trying to make something that is fictitious here. So this method is what we call the critical section. I said any part of the code that is between the semaphore.slim.wait and semaphore.slim.release, it's the part of the code that is in the critical section. Does that make sense? Okay, this should be inside here actually, not outside. You need to be careful of this. Yeah, so this part of the code, so that means I can create 20 tasks here, 20 threads, but there will only be one thread that is going to be able to print the document, because the Semaphore Slim is going to make sure that there is no part of the application that is going to access obj print document. Any part, there has to be only one part of the document. That way we have limited the number of threads that can print the document. Does that make sense? So now I want us to start by hey, this is gonna cause a lot of problem. Okay, we're going to test this. First thing that we're going to do, we're going to run this method without semaphore slim.wait, and then we're going to run it with semaphore slim.wait. Does that make sense? Just so that you can see the role that can be played by semaphore slim. So now let's look at the part of the code, the same part of the code where semaphore slim.wait is not going to be there, and we're going to also have to do some changes here. Very quick